What's up everyone, Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I'm doing some more underrated albums. This time we're going to go into grindcore, and by that extension, death grind, cross-punk, stuff very much in the whole grindcore umbrella. Again, underrated doesn't feel like the right word for it, but this is the name of the series, so I'm sticking with it. Because grindcore is underground as fuck. It's a very fringe sound. Even people that are big into death metal and such, and black metal, sometimes grindcore is a bit too much. I've always loved it. I just kind of like how condensed and fucking violent it is. It's just kind of a cool approach to it. I love the whole punky side of extreme metal. And to me, grindcore is pretty much as extreme as it gets, at least musically. So let's get into this. Defecation Purify Dilution. Now this is a side project from Mitch and Mike Harris, both of them of Napalm Death. I believe it's Mitch that's still in Napalm Death, and Mike is the one that left and went off to do other projects. I might have that flipped around just because the names are very similar, and probably shouldn't have to say it, but there's no relation between the two. This was their two-man death grind project, and this came out in 1989 on Nuclear Blast Records, and I absolutely loved this album. This is very much in the vein of Repulsion and Terrorizer, and I love both those bands. This kind of got snubbed as like a Terrorizer light sort of album. Like, oh, they pretty much kind of copied the formula, and there really wasn't much to it, but I mean, just jam it. It's loaded with killer songs. And these guys broke up in 1992, not long after this one was released, and then reformed in 2000, put out one album which was a little bit more on the electronic/industrial side, but still very much grindcore. I didn't get into that one as much, and then of course there was the fake release that came out last year, which I still can't believe that actually fucking came out. It was kind of a weird little troll campaign against Mitch Harris, whatever. But yeah, if you've never actually heard this album, it's a solid album. If you love Terrorizer and Repulsion, like I said, there's a damn good chance you'll like this. And I'd definitely say it's underrated as far as death grind goes, but then again, it's a kind of a fringe genre anyway, so yeah, check it out. Cripple Bastards, Your Lies in Check. Now this is their 1996 debut album. These guys formed in 1988 in Italy, and there are 69 tracks on this thing. Now I believe only a certain portion of them are actually studio tracks, the rest are like live tracks and demos and such, but still you fit 69 tracks on an album. Now that, of course, that's nothing compared to like, Agoraphobic Nosebleed, but that's still pretty damn impressive. Again, lots of short, very punky, very just hostile songs. I really love the energy on this album. There's even little bits of like surf rock, and definitely some bits of them just kind of goofing around. Lyrically, I can't tell you what the hell they're saying because it's all in Italian, and I want to say every member of the band actually contributes to vocals on here too, because you get a lot of contrasting styles of screams and grunts and growls. Now, these guys have a fair amount of full lengths, but a lot of their discography is splits and EPs and compilations and 7-inch singles and shit. These guys have a lot of material, and they're still around, still putting out good stuff. I believe they had one that came out a few years ago that I really dug. I haven't heard much from them recently, but as soon as they pop up on the radar, I'm definitely going to pick up something from them again. I just have to wait for it to be on CD, though. Either way, if you've never heard of these guys, definitely check them out. This is about as grind as it fucking gets. Antigamma Resonance. Now this is a newer grindcore band formed in 2007 in Poland, and these guys are just wild in terms of their style. It's very spastic grindcore. Kind of reminds me a lot of like later Brutal Truth. There's even some really weird experimental sort of like noise ambient stuff on here too, like the song Barbapex. I think that's how you say that. It doesn't even seem like a real word, but either way, really interesting songwriting. It kind of gets a little spazzy sometimes, again, like Dillinger Escape Plan. And there's even some elements of like brutal death metal in there and some of the breakdowns. It's like grindcore for fans of like Cryptopsy. Really insane stuff on here. This is like an audio fever dream just listening to it. I would say this is probably one of their best albums. A lot of their earlier stuff can go off the rails a little bit more, but this one just seemed like the formula really worked. Definitely check these guys out. It's just insane grindcore, and if that's your thing, then you'll definitely like this. Sayyadina, Mourning the Unknown. This came out in 2007. The band has been around since 2000 and features John Lindquist, who is formerly of Nawesome, and honestly, out of all the post-Nawesome projects that all the other members got into, This is probably one of the closest ones that sound like Nawesome. Very much just fast, grindcore, has that Swedish sort of sound to it. This album just blazes through all 21 tracks and just brimming with hostility and chunky riffs. I fucking love this album. They have some other stuff that I like, but this is probably the one that I really get into the most. Now, they are still around, but they haven't released anything in about a decade. So hopefully they resurface with something new, because I really enjoyed this release. And again, I like all their other stuff, but definitely could use something fresh and interesting to listen to from these guys. Again, if you're a huge Nawesome fan, this definitely picked up where they left off. Check it out. Gridlink Orphan. This actually has ties to my underrated thrash bands. I brought up Hayaino Daisuke. A lot of the guys from that are in this too. This features former and current members of Discordant Access, Noisier, and Kill the Client. So yeah, a huge background in grind. This is very technical grind, very spastic. It's really all over the fucking place. It is insane to listen to. This is pretty much the sound of a band that is just completely unhinged and looking for the most extreme possible songwriting they can do, and it pretty much works here. It's just nuts. These guys have been on hiatus for like the last 6 years, unfortunately, so hopefully these guys do resurface, because this is just some insane stuff, and definitely a challenging listen, but if you can get into this, I'd say you can get into just about anything in terms of grindcore. Check it out. Unrest Grindcore. Pretty straightforward title, and you're definitely going to get that when you listen to this. This is almost kind of a supergroup. It features Chris Grigg of Woe on drums and vocals, and it features one of the guitarists from Crypt Sermon on guitars and their singer on bass on this. So you could almost argue it's a bit of a supergroup. This is their only release. It came out on Unspeakable Acts and Dark Descent, and this is just fantastic grindcore. Very punky, lots of cool D-beat sections too, so it kind of borders on crust in some spots. The vocals are raw, just nasty. That's just brimming with hostility, and I absolutely love that in grindcore. Love the production on this too. It definitely really just kind of captures that sound, and it's really riffy. Like, there's some really catchy riffs on here too. I love the shit out of this. I think this is honestly one of the best grindcore albums that has come out in recent memory for me. I jammed the shit out of this when it came out, and I still jam the shit out of it now. Definitely check this one out. Infanticide, Extinction Scheme. This is yet another grindcore band from Sweden. These guys formed in 2002, and this one came out in 2007. And again, if you like bands like Nawesome and Rotten Sound, or even Sayyadina, you're going to love this, because it is just straightforward Swedish grindcore. And they really ramp up the Swedish buzzsaw tone on this, so everything just feels heavy as fuck. Like, this is just an abrasive listen. I love that there are some subtle death metal influences on here, especially in the guitar tone, because it has that old school Swedish buzzsaw sound. Now, these guys are still listed as active, but they haven't released anything in 7 years, and man, I would love to hear some new stuff from them, especially something that is on par with this, because this is just a fucking banger of an album. Check this one out. It's fucking awesome. The Drip, a presentation of Gruesome Poetics. This band formed in 2007 in Washington, and this is just raw, real dissonant grindcore. I think the production is a little muddy on this one, but I guess that kind of works with the overall atmosphere and feel of this album, because it is just caustic as hell. Vocals definitely lean closer to hardcore, I would say. Like, there are definitely parts in here that remind me a lot of a band like Trap Them, which I fucking love that band, so yeah, that's kind of a cool thing to remind me of. Now, this is just an EP. I believe they only have one full length technically, but they have 2 other EPs outside of this one too, and all of them are just raw, gritty, and in your face, and pretty much all things uncompromising. That's pretty much their thing. Dig this release though. The production may not be the best, but the songs are definitely pretty spot on, and I like the level of just grittiness on this. Check out all their releases though. They're all really good, but yeah, this one's a fucking pretty nasty one. Check it out. Gein Bad Luck. Now, this one came out in 2011 on Good Fight / Black Market Activities, and this band is currently broken up. They existed pretty much from 2001 to 2018, and this was their last release, I believe. Now, this band kind of went all over the place. There are elements of hardcore, noise, grindcore, thrash metal. I always kind of lumped them more in the grindcore category just because they seem to fit there more. And this release was definitely one that had more of a grindcore feel to it. I really love the energy on here. The production's more stripped down. This band didn't bother with having like one key frontman. Everyone pretty much contributed on vocals, just yelling and screaming about a myriad of different things. It's not necessarily super serious. There's a lot of just ridiculous references, like the song The Wraith is actually about that movie, The Wraith, with Charlie Sheen. I wish these guys were still around because this was such a fun listen when it came out, and I still come back to this one quite often just because I like the balance of all those elements in there, and it just kind of creates their own sound. And each one of their releases were a lot different, but I went with this one because this one was definitely more on the grind side of things. And it definitely dialed up the fun. Either way, definitely check this one out. It's a lot of fun to listen to. And finally we have Columns, Please Explode. Now this came out in 2014. The band formed in 2003 in North Carolina and features the frontman of Glass Casket and Wretched. This is more along the lines of death grind with some brutal elements to it. There's a fair amount of breakdowns on here and like kind of super abrasive grindcore you'd hear from bands like Cephalic Carnage, which I fucking miss those guys too. The production on here is uneven. Some songs sound louder than others on here, but overall, pretty solid writing, and I like the fact that there are some longer songs on here that actually kind of go for more groove over just the punky, dissonant grindcore that they usually are in here. It's a good way to vary up the album. This is their only release, and it came out, again, 6 years ago now. I'm not even entirely sure if this band's around. It said they were active, but there's really nothing that they've put out here recently to really indicate that they're still around. Still, this is a fun release. Definitely check it out if you're looking for just some wild, crazy grindcore that still likes breakdowns. Check it out. Alright, well that's pretty much part one of this. I'm saying part one just because I'm probably going to return to this because I own a lot of grindcore. And it's just fun talking about grindcore anyway. I fucking love this genre. It's just fucking nuts. So, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do shit like this all the time. Catch you guys later.